Title: Everyone laughed when the valet girl refused to start the Mafia boss's car. Then she held up the second key. The Mafia boss's driver held out his gloved hand for the keys, and Lena Hart did not give them to him. The hotel valet lane went still. Rain shone on the black SUV. Cameras blinked under the marble awning. 2 bodyguards turned at the same time, their shoulders closing around the space as if the night itself had stepped too close. "Miss," the driver said, his voice flat. "The keys." Lena stood beside the open driver's door in her black valet jacket, her hair pinned badly from a 12-hour shift, one hand wrapped around the key fob and the other around a red valet tag. Behind the driver, Matteo Vescari came down the hotel steps in a black 3-piece suit and a long overcoat, clean-shaven, dark-haired, and dangerous enough that every other guest in the lane remembered an appointment elsewhere. His fiancée laughed from beneath a cream umbrella. "She parks cars," Bianca Vale said. "Now she thinks she owns them." Lena lifted her hand. The red valet tag swung once in the rain. "This tag came in with 1 key," she said. "Your driver is leaving with 2. Chapter 1. The Bellario Hotel had rules for everything except the people rich enough to break them. Guests in the East Ballroom used the private elevator. Guests with black cards used the side vestibule. Guests with security details used the marble awning and did not wait behind anyone's rental sedan. Florists came through the kitchen door. Musicians came through the loading dock. Women in evening gowns came through whatever entrance made the necklace look most expensive under the lights. Valets did not come through anything. They stayed outside. They took the weather on their shoulders, the blame on their faces, and the keys from hands that rarely remembered their names. Lena Hart had been the night valet supervisor at the Bellario for 4 years, which meant she knew how to smile while counting risks. Scratched paint. Wrong ticket. Drunk groom. Ice on the ramp. Angry lawyer with a dented Maserati and a mistress in the passenger seat. She had also learned the quieter risks, the ones polished people hid inside courtesy. A woman who tipped too much before asking which car belonged to her husband. A man who wanted his brother's sedan before the brother came outside. A driver who said he had permission but could not describe the seat position. Keys told stories when people lied. They carried sweat, scratches, cheap plastic, leather dye, panic, perfume, dust from pockets, and the faint little habits of the person who used them every day. Lena knew that because her father had owned Hart Auto on the south side until his lungs gave out from paint thinner and winter air. Before she could read a lease, she could tell when a belt was loose. Before she knew what a bank penalty was, she knew the clean false click of a key that had been copied too fast. That was what she heard in Matteo Vescari's SUV. Not danger, exactly. Not yet. A wrongness. The night had started badly, which usually meant it would end worse. The Bellario hosted the Vescari engagement dinner in the East Ballroom, and everyone on staff had been warned by management 3 times before sunset. No mistakes. No delays. No personal conversation with guests. No photos. No questions. No rumors. The last rule was for fools. There were always rumors when a mafia boss rented an entire ballroom and filled the curb with black cars. Matteo Vescari was 42, Italian-American, and feared in the careful way powerful men were feared when they no longer needed to raise their voices. He had inherited the Vescari family after his father died in a late-night crash on River Road, an accident the newspapers called tragic because they had not been brave enough to call it convenient. Since then Matteo had become a man of locked schedules, checked routes, sealed windows, and cars chosen by people who reported to him. He never let strangers touch his keys. That was why the whole valet crew noticed when his driver handed Lena the SUV at 7:12 p.m. "Boss says no garage," the driver had said. "Front lane only. Engine warm. Nobody opens the rear compartment." "Then why are you giving it to me?" Lena asked. His expression did not move. "Because the police will ticket it if it sits at the hydrant." "So the hydrant has more authority than your boss?" One of the younger valets made a noise that might have been a cough. The driver looked at Lena as if deciding whether she was stupid or suicidal. Lena held out her hand anyway. "Name for the ticket?" "Vescari." "I know the name. I still need it on the ticket." The driver gave her 1 key fob attached to nothing but a plain metal ring. No house key. No leather tab. No extra remote. No tracking charm. No personal clutter. Men like Matteo Vescari either had no possessions or had too many people assigned to carry them. Lena wrote Vescari on the card, tore the red tag free, and looped it through the ring herself. 1 key. 1 red tag. She parked the SUV beneath camera 3, because camera 3 had the best angle and because cars owned by dangerous men should be either in full view or nowhere near her shift. At 11:38 p.m., Bianca Vale came outside early. Lena had seen her in the lobby earlier, wrapped in cream silk and diamonds, her blonde hair sleek enough to look poured. She was the kind of woman who did not hurry because people hurried for her. Now she hurried. Not much. Not enough for a guest to notice. Enough for Lena. Bianca crossed the valet lane with a phone pressed to her ear and paused near the SUV for 3 seconds too long. Her umbrella blocked camera 3. Then Marco, one of Mateo's secondary drivers, came around from the service corridor and said something Lena could not hear. Bianca gave him a smile without warmth. Lena stopped tying a ticket bundle and watched the reflection in the wet hood of a blue coupe. Marco opened his hand. Bianca dropped something into it. Small. Black. Key-sized. Lena did not move. Moving too early got people fired. Moving too late got people hurt. She waited until Bianca went back inside, until Marco walked toward the SUV, until the rain softened the sound of his shoes. Then she stepped into the lane. Car stays where it is, she said. Marco looked annoyed before he looked afraid. That was useful. Men who felt guilty usually went straight to anger. Men who felt protected took one extra beat to remember they were supposed to be angry. Mr. Vescari is leaving in 10 minutes. Then he can leave in 11. Move. No. Marco smiled then. Not a happy smile. A measuring one. You are valet staff. Supervisor, Lena said. Valet supervisor. Congratulations. Thank you. It came with a radio that barely works and a clipboard held together with duct tape. You think jokes will help you? No. Cameras might. His eyes flicked up. There. Lena kept her voice even. Camera 3 is blocked by the umbrella. Camera 2 catches the service door reflection in the west window. Camera 5 catches your shoes. So if you are about to tell me you have always had that second key, choose a better lie. Marco's smile disappeared. He moved fast, but Lena had grown up around men who thought size was permission. She stepped backward, not away, and hit the panic call on her radio with her thumb. Not the emergency call. Not security. The valet channel. Code red tag, she said. Every valet on shift knew what that meant because Lena had made them practice it after a drunk hedge fund manager tried to leave in the wrong Porsche last winter. No drama. No heroics. Keys to supervisor. Eyes on cameras. Nobody starts any engine. By the time the ballroom doors opened and Matteo Vescari came down the steps, 3 valets had formed the most unimpressive wall in Chicago, one college kid in a wet cap, a divorced father with bad knees, and Lena Hart with a red tag in her fist. Matteo saw her first. Then the SUV. Then Marco's empty hand. Then the second key Lena had taken from the wet pavement after Marco dropped it. Explain, Matteo said. His voice did not rise, yet the hotel lane lowered itself around him. Lena understood then why people obeyed him. It was not volume. It was certainty. He spoke as if every object in the world had already agreed to become evidence. She did not hand him the keys. That changed his face by a fraction. Your driver gave me 1 key at 7:12, she said. I tagged it myself. The tag number is written in my log and on the copy inside. At 11:38, your fiancé came outside and passed him a second key. He tried to reach the car before you came out. Bianca laughed. The sound was clean, bright, and false. Matteo, darling, it is raining. Are we really letting a parking girl perform theater in front of the hotel? Lena kept her eyes on Matteo. Not because Bianca did not matter, but because Bianca mattered too much and wanted the room to tilt toward her. The second key is too new, Lena said. The cut marks are rough. Whoever copied it did it fast. The door handle has a fresh crescent scratch near the lower edge. Not from your usual key fob. From someone testing fit in a hurry. Marco stepped forward. She is lying. Matteo did not look at him. Are you? The question landed on Lena with the weight of a locked door. No. Do you know what happens when people lie to me? Probably something that creates paperwork for other people. One of the valets made another dangerous cough. Matteo stared at her. For half a second, his mouth almost changed. Not a smile. Something worse for everyone who wanted him angry. Interest. You have 1 minute, he said. Lena shook her head. No. The bodyguards shifted. Bianca's smile sharpened. Matteo's eyes went still. No? 1 minute is for people who already know what they are looking at. You do not. The valet lane became so quiet that the rain sounded like coins thrown at glass. Lena held up the red valet tag. You keep guarding doors with men, she said. Whoever did this knew you stopped looking at small things. Chapter 2. Nobody had ever told Matteo Vescari that he stopped looking at small things. People told him what they thought he wanted to hear, what they feared he had already noticed, or what they hoped would redirect his attention before it reached them. They did not tell him he missed things. They did not tell him a valet supervisor knew his world better than his driver did. They certainly did not tell him that under a hotel awning, in the rain, while his fiancée stood at his side and half of Chicago's old money watched from behind tinted glass. Lena Hart told him all 3 without changing her grip on his keys. He should have ordered her moved. The command rose in him by habit. Remove her. Secure the car. Question Marco. Question Bianca. Find the angle. Control the scene. But his father had died in a controlled scene. A clean road. A checked car. A loyal driver. A route approved twice. A crash so neat it left no witness brave enough to remember seeing another vehicle. Since then Matteo had trusted systems because trusting people had cost too much. Now a woman in a soaked valet jacket stood in front of his SUV, holding a red tag that looked cheap enough to belong on a laundromat basket, and she was telling him his system had become the blind spot. Show me, he said. Bianca turned. Matteo. He lifted one hand. She stopped speaking. Lena noticed that too. Of course she did. Her eyes missed nothing. They moved over people the way a mechanic's hand moved over an engine, not admiring the shine, listening for the fault. She walked to the SUV, but she did not step inside the open door. That restraint mattered. Your original key, she said, holding up the tagged fob. Used. Edges smooth. The ring sits flat because it has been hanging in the same direction for a long time. She held up the second key between two fingers. Copy. Fresh cut. No pocket wear. The burrs are still bright. Marco said, that proves nothing. It proves you did not have it this morning. You do not know what I had this morning. Lena turned her head. I know men who carry spare keys do not hide them in their left sleeve and drop them when a woman says camera. The young valet with the wet cap stared at her like he wanted to applaud and live. Matteo stepped closer. The rain touched his shoulders, darkening the wool of his overcoat. His guards began to follow, but he stopped them with 2 fingers. He did not like strangers near his cars. He did not like anyone between him and a controlled exit. He especially did not like the fact that he wanted to hear what Lena Hart would say next. You said it sounded wrong, he said. Lena glanced at him. I said your car wanted to start too cleanly. That is not an answer. It is if you know cars. Assume I do not. That may be the smartest thing you have said tonight. Bianca made a soft offended sound. Matteo almost heard his father laugh. It disturbed him. Lena crouched by the driver's side front tire. Not kneeling. Not performing submission. She moved like someone choosing the right angle for work. Look here. Matteo did not crouch. He was Matteo Vescari. Men crouched for him. Lena did not look up. If your shoes cost more than my rent, they can survive wet pavement. He heard Marco suck in a breath. Matteo crouched. Not because she ordered him. Because she was right. The pavement was cold beneath one knee. Rainwater gathered near the curb. The smell of hot rubber and hotel flowers sat oddly together. Lena pointed to the tire edge without touching it. See the pale dust? Brake dust. No. Brake dust is darker and spreads backward. This is powder from the curb strip. Someone rolled the car 6 inches out, then back. Not enough to look moved. Enough to reach under the dash without being seen by camera 3. Matteo looked. He saw it then. Not much. A light chalky line pressed into wet rubber near the bottom edge. Small. Almost nothing. The kind of almost nothing that killed men who believed only large threats deserved names. Who had access, he asked. You tell me. You are the one holding my keys. And you are the one who arrived with a driver who took a second key from your fiancé. Bianca stepped forward. I gave Marco the key because Matteo misplaces nothing, and I thought he might need the spare after dinner. Lena stood, slow enough not to look rushed. Then why did you block the camera with your umbrella? I did not. You did. This is absurd. Most lies are, once the weather gets involved. Matteo looked at Bianca. She had been selected by 3 families, 2 lawyers, and 1 dying agreement made before he had power enough to refuse politely. Beautiful, educated, connected, composed. She had spent 3 months beside him without once touching anything she did not own. Until tonight. Where did you get the spare? He asked. Her face changed so quickly that only Lena's stillness made it visible. From Marco. Marco looked at her. 1 lie had become 2. Lena saw it and said nothing. That silence was not weakness. It was space. She let the lie hang between them until Matteo could see which side tried to cut it down first. Marco moved. Not toward Matteo. Toward the SUV. Lena was closer. She slammed the driver's door shut with her hip and stepped back with both keys held high. 1 guard caught Marco by the arm before he reached her. No spectacle. No shouting. Just a hand closing where it needed to close. Matteo rose. Open his jacket. Marco struggled once, then stopped when the second guard looked at him. Inside his jacket pocket was a small black remote relay box. It was no larger than a cigarette case. Lena's face did not brighten with victory. She looked tired, angry, and unsurprised. Matteo hated that most. What is it? Bianca asked, too late and too lightly. Lena answered before anyone else could make it complicated. A relay tool. It tricks the car into thinking the key is closer than it is. With a copied key in that box, someone could start your SUV without making it look stolen. Matteo looked at the box. Then the key. Then the red tag. He had survived men with contracts, men with blades, men with judges, men with senators, and men who smiled with champagne in their hands while ordering bloodless ruin. Tonight he had nearly lost to a second key and a woman with an umbrella. Why stop it? He asked Lena. Her eyes narrowed. Why would I not? Most people would decide my car is not their problem. Most people do not have my name on the valet log. That is your reason? It is one of them. What is the other? She looked past him at the valet standing wet and silent behind her. At the hotel manager hovering near the revolving door, already deciding whom to blame. At Marco, whose expression had gone gray. At Bianca, whose hands had tightened around her umbrella handle. If your car left this lane and something happened, Lena said, management would ask which staff member parked it, which staff member released it, which staff member failed to notice. They would not say Matteo Vescari missed a key. They would say Lena Hart lost control of her station. She held the red tag higher. This is my station. Matteo believed her. That was the first mistake. The second was wanting to. Chapter 3. The hotel manager arrived with the face of a man who had just seen his bonus walk toward traffic. Mr. Vescari, Harold Pym said, wiping rain from his forehead with a monogrammed handkerchief. I am so sorry. Miss Hart, what exactly is happening here? Lena did not look at him. A guest's vehicle is on hold due to key irregularity. Key irregularity, Harold repeated, as if words could be made smaller through contempt. Yes. And did you think perhaps hotel security should handle that? I called valet code red. That is not security. It is faster. It is inappropriate. So is releasing a compromised SUV to a guest. Harold glanced at Matteo with a smile that begged to be saved from his employee. She is very thorough. Sometimes perhaps overly thorough. Matteo said, she is the only person here who was thorough enough. Harold's smile died politely. Lena felt the impact of those words like a hand at her back. She did not lean into it. Men with power could make a woman visible for 1 minute and disposable the next. She had learned that before she was old enough to know why her father hid final notices under old repair manuals. I need the valet log, she said. Harold blinked. Excuse me? The paper log. Not the tablet. Everything is digital now. Not during rain. The tablet screen fails in heavy weather, so we keep a paper backup clipped under the podium. I need it before someone edits the digital record. Harold flushed. Matteo noticed. Of course he did. Once directed, his attention became a blade. Bring it, he said. Harold hesitated only long enough to prove he had thought of refusing. Then he turned toward the valet podium. Bianca touched Matteo's sleeve. This has become humiliating, she said quietly. For whom? Her fingers went still. For all of us. No. Be precise. Lena watched Bianca choose between anger and charm. Charm won because charm had served her longer. For you, Bianca said, softening her voice. For the family. You are standing in the rain because a valet girl thinks she found a conspiracy in a keychain. She found a second key. Marco made a mistake. Marco leave. Men panic when accused. Women do too, Lena said. Bianca turned her head slowly. Lena met her eyes. You are not panicking. That is what bothers me. Bianca's smile thinned. What an ambitious little parking girl. What a nervous fiancé. The slap did not come. Bianca was too careful for that. But Matteo saw the desire for it pass across her face, and something inside him settled into a colder shape. Harold returned with the paper log. The cardboard backing was damp along one edge. Lena took it, then stopped. She looked at Matteo. You read it. He frowned. Why? Because if I read it, she will say I made it up. If your manager reads it, he will skip whatever scares him. If you read it, everyone has to listen. For the second time that night, Matteo did what she said. He took the log. The paper looked cheap in his hand. Vescari, 712, SUV black, front lane, 1 fob, tag 41. Lena pointed, not touching the page. That is my writing. I see that. Now look at 1006. Bianca Vale, private hold, no vehicle, tag void. Matteo looked up. Bianca's expression remained smooth. Lena said, she requested a private hold without vehicle release. That means she wanted a tag number blocked in the system but did not want a car retrieved. Harold whispered, Miss Vale often has private arrangements. With my valet lane? Lena asked. Harold shut his mouth. Matteo read the next line. Marco, service exit, chiqued. That is not my writing, Lena said. Whose? She pointed at Harold. The hotel manager lost color. I made a note, he said. For efficiency. No, Lena said. You created a ghost movement. It makes it look like Marco had a legitimate service reason to approach the vehicle. This is outrageous. So is your handwriting under my station. Matteo looked at Harold. Some men begged with words. Harold begged with moisture, his skin shining under the awning lights. Who asked you to write it? Matteo said. Harold swallowed. Bianca spoke first. No one asked him. This is becoming a mob scene because an employee wants attention. Lena laughed once. It was not a pretty laugh. It was the sound of a woman who had spent years being told attention was the worst thing she could want while powerful people spent entire fortunes purchasing it. If I wanted attention, she said, I would have worn heels inside and pretended not to understand cars. Matteo looked at her then. Really looked. Not at the uniform. Not at the wet hair. Not at the cheap radio clipped to her belt. At the woman. 33, maybe. Exhausted. Fierce in a way that had nothing to do with performance. Her hands were nicked near the knuckles, and one nail had split. She wore no ring, no necklace, no softening detail chosen for wealthy eyes. She had not dressed to enter his world. She had stopped his car and made his world come outside. Why do you know all this? He asked. Lena blinked. It was the first question that seemed to reach somewhere under her jacket. My father ran a garage. Ran? Past tense. Dead? Sick first. Then dead. It took longer, which was less merciful and more expensive. The answer was too blunt for polite company. Matteo preferred it. He taught you keys. He taught me everything small enough for arrogant men to ignore. This time, his mouth did change. Just slightly. Useful man. He was. For one breath, the rain felt less cold. Then Marco said, she is distracting you. Matteo turned. Marco had chosen the wrong moment to remind the world he existed. From what? Marco's jaw tightened. From the fact that she has no authority here. Lena lifted the red tag again. I have authority over every car in my lane until I release it. You are a servant. Then you should have bribed one with lower standards. The young valet made a sound that definitely was not a cough. Matteo said, where does the second key lead? Marco looked confused. Good. Matteo had learned from Lena already. Start small. The key was copied fast, Matteo said. That means the original was available briefly. Who had access to the original before my driver gave it to Miss Hart? Marco said nothing. Bianca said, Matteo, please. He did not look at her. Answer. Marco's eyes moved to the hotel doors. Lena followed the glance. Coat check, she said. Everyone looked at her. He looked at coat check. Not the ballroom. Not security. Coat check. Matteo's phone was in his hand before she finished. Lock the coat room, he said to whoever answered. No one leaves. Bring me the attendant, the drawer, and every envelope signed after 7. Bianca's face finally changed. Not fear. Calculation. Lena had seen that look on men deciding whether to leave the scene before the tow truck came. She is going to run, Lena said. Bianca moved. Matteo caught her wrist. Not hard. Not theatrical. Enough. No, he said. One word. Bianca froze. Lena saw it then, the difference between fear of a man and fear of what he had just understood. Bianca was not afraid of Matteo's anger. She had planned for that. She was afraid of his attention. Chapter 4. They moved the confrontation inside because the hotel begged, the rain worsened, and Lena refused to release the SUV until it had been checked by a mechanic who did not owe Harold Pym money. I know a garage, she said. Yours? Matteo asked. Used to be. Can they come now? For me, yes. For you, they would overcharge. I can afford it. That is why they would overcharge. He studied her as they crossed the lobby. You object to people making money? I object to people assuming money fixes insult. I have not insulted you. You considered moving me. I consider moving everyone. That is not as charming as you think. I was not trying to be charming. Good. Saves us both disappointment. She walked ahead of him, which his guards clearly hated. Matteo let her. He told himself it was practical. She knew the hotel route. She knew the log. She knew the valet staff. She was evidence attached to legs and a dangerous mouth. That was all. Then she stopped outside a service hallway because a busboy was trying to flatten himself against the wall with a tray of empty glasses. Eli, she said, softer than she had spoken all night, go through pastry. Not main hall. They are questioning coat check. The busboy nodded quickly. Thanks, Lena. Matteo watched him disappear. You direct everyone here? Only people who listen. Do many? People with rent usually understand practical advice. And people with power? They call it disrespect until it saves them. He should not have enjoyed that answer. He did. The private waiting room beside the ballroom had blue walls, gold lamps, and enough mirrors to make every guilty person look surrounded. Matteo put Bianca in a chair, Marco by the fireplace, Harold near the door, and the coat check attendant across from Lena. The attendant was 19 and shaking. Lena looked at Matteo before he spoke. Do not scare her. The room reacted as if she had thrown a glass. Matteo slowly turned his head. Do you give orders in every room? Only when someone is about to make the wrong thing harder. You think I would scare her? I think you are built like a bad ending, and she is 19. For a moment nobody breathed. Then Matteo pulled out the chair opposite the attendant and sat. He did not soften his face. He did not know how to do that on command. But he lowered his voice. What is your name? Paige. Paige. Did anyone ask you for access to coat check envelopes tonight? Paige looked at Bianca. Bianca said nothing. Lena stood behind Paige, not touching her, just there. That seemed to help. Miss Vale said Mr. Vescari had left his cigar case in his coat, Paige whispered. She had the claim number. Who gave her the number? Mr. Pym. Harold began to speak. Matteo lifted one finger. Harold stopped. What happened next? Matteo asked. She opened the coat envelope. There was no cigar case. She took something out, and then Marco came in. A key? Paige nodded. I thought maybe it was allowed. She is going to be his wife. Bianca exhaled sharply. This is ridiculous. I took the spare because Matteo's driver had been drinking. Marco stared at her. Lena looked between them. That is new. Bianca ignored her. I wanted the vehicle ready with someone else. I was protecting him. Matteo leaned back. By giving my spare key to the driver you now accuse of drinking. I did not know then. You just said you took it because you knew. Bianca's lips parted. Lena almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Lies under pressure were like bad engine repairs. The first patch held until heat reached it. Then every hidden crack opened at once. The door opened. One of Matteo's men entered with a plastic valet tray, 3 claim envelopes, a hotel tablet, and a small velvet ring pouch. Not a jewelry pouch. A key pouch. Matteo set it on the table. Bianca went very still. Open it, he said to Lena. She did not move. Why me? Because if I open it, someone will say I placed whatever is inside. Who would say that? You would. She considered him. Then she took the pouch and emptied it onto the table. A third key slid out. So did a folded card. The card had no writing on the outside. Inside was a printed service address near River Road. Matteo's face emptied. Not hardened. Emptied. Lena saw the room disappear from him for one moment, replaced by something colder and older than the engagement dinner. What is River Road? She asked. No one answered. Matteo picked up the card. The edge bent between his fingers. His signet ring caught the lamplight. My father died on River Road. Bianca whispered, Matteo. It was the first honest sound she had made all night. Not grief. Fear. Lena looked at the third key, then the card, then Matteo. This was not only about tonight. No. Someone wanted you to know after. After what? She did not flinch from the question. After the car left. Chapter 5. The garage Lena called was no longer Hard Auto. The sign had been replaced, the floor repainted, the old coffee machine thrown out because nobody respected machines that took coins anymore. But Ravi still answered on the second ring. If this is about the Bellario tow account, I told them I am not discounting tires for men who valet Lamborghinis on bald rubber. It is Lena. That sounded like a sentence with trouble standing behind it. I need a mobile check. Black SUV. Possible relay intrusion. Maybe ignition tamper. Hotel front lane. Police? Lena looked at Matteo. He watched her without expression. Not yet, she said. Ravi sighed. That means rich trouble. Mafia trouble. I preferred rich. Can you come? For you? Yes. For them? I am adding rain fee. I told him. Good girl. Do not call me that in front of dangerous people. Then stop calling me from dangerous places. She hung up. Matteo's gaze was still on her. Ravi? My father's best mechanic. You trust him? With cars. With you? The question was too direct. Lena looked down at the red Valet tag in her hand. The cardboard had softened from rain, the number bleeding slightly at the corner. People are different from cars. That is not an answer. It is the answer I have. He accepted that, which irritated her more than if he had pushed. Men who pushed were simple. Men who waited made a woman aware of every locked room inside herself. The investigation spread through the hotel like ink in water. Matteo's men took statements. Harold tried to resign twice and was not permitted to escape that easily. Paige sat with tea in the staff room while Lena made sure nobody treated her like bait. Marco said nothing until Matteo placed the River Road card in front of him. Then he talked. Not enough. Enough to prove Bianca had made promises through her uncle. Enough to prove the engagement was not only about families joining but routes opening, records disappearing, old crash files staying buried. Enough to prove tonight's car had been meant to fail 2 blocks after leaving the hotel, on a stretch without cameras because the city had not replaced the broken ones. Not an explosion. Not a dramatic fire. Something cleaner. A sudden lock. A hard pull. A crash that could be blamed on rain and speed. History repeating itself with better tailoring. Lena listened from the edge of the room because she was not family, not security, not police, and not foolish enough to think proximity meant belonging. At 1:06 a.m., Ravi arrived in a yellow raincoat older than most of the cars in the valet lane. He looked at Matteo once. "You the owner?" Matteo said, "Yes. You touch anything after she told you not to?" "No." Ravi glanced at Lena. "He listens. That is new for you." "It is new for him too." Matteo said nothing, but Lena saw the corner of his mouth consider movement again. They returned to the SUV under the awning. The rain had slowed to a silver mist. The hotel looked less grand at that hour, its flowers beaten, its brass rails wet, its revolving door carrying no one important enough to pretend the night had gone well. Ravi checked the tire line first. "Good catch," he said. Lena felt an absurd warmth in her chest. Praise from Ravi was rare and usually sounded like an insult that had lost energy halfway. Matteo heard it. "You taught her?" "Her father taught her. I mostly yelled when she used my best socket set." "You still have it," Lena said. "Because I stole it back." Ravi opened the lower dash panel. He worked with slow hands and a light clip to his cap. Matteo crouched beside him without being told this time. Lena noticed. She pretended not to. After 8 minutes, Ravi made a low sound. "There." He removed a small receiver from behind the panel. It had been placed badly, fast, but not by someone ignorant. A thin wire ran where no wire should run. Ravi held it up in a gloved hand. "This would not drive the car for them," he said. "But it would talk to the relay box. Start, lock, stall, maybe cut power for a few seconds if paired right." "Enough for a crash?" Matteo asked. "In rain? At the right turn?" "Yes." Nobody spoke. The city hummed beyond the awning, uncaring. Lena looked at the receiver and imagined Matteo in the black SUV, overcoat still damp from rain, anger distracting him, Bianca's lies behind him, River Road ahead and some bastard's idea of poetry. Her stomach tightened. She did not like him. That was not accurate. She did not know him. She knew what he was, or thought she did. Men like Matteo made cities nervous. They owned silence in rooms where other people paid rent. They could ruin a life with a phone call and consider it housekeeping. But he had crouched in the rain when she told him to look. He had not scared Paige after Lena warned him. He had read the log himself. He had listened. Listening did not make a dangerous man safe. It made him more complicated. That was worse. Matteo stood with the receiver in his hand. "What do I owe you?" he asked Ravi. Ravi named a number that made Harold gasp from the doorway. Matteo said, "Double it." Ravi shook his head. "No. Pay what I charge. If you want to throw money because you are embarrassed, donate to the trade school on Kedzie." Matteo looked at Lena. "Does everyone in your life speak to me like this?" "Only the useful ones." "And you?" "I am the one who started it." For the first time that night, he smiled. Not much. Not kindly. But enough to change the weather under the awning. Lena looked away first. Chapter 6. Quiet turn. At 2:14 a.m., Matteo Vescari stood alone beside the front wheel of his SUV and stared at the red Valet tag in Lena's hand. The hotel had emptied of guests who mattered. Bianca had been taken upstairs to a private room with 2 of Matteo's women at the door, because he trusted women more than men when betrayal wore perfume. Marco sat in a service office with 1 guard and no phone. Harold had begun cooperating with the energy of a man who believed useful fear might save his career. Lena should have clocked out. Her shift had ended at midnight. Her socks were wet. Her shoulders ached. She had missed dinner unless 3 vending machine pretzels counted as food, which they did not, even under emergency labor conditions. Instead she was still there because the SUV was still in her lane. Matteo noticed. "You can go home. Not until the vehicle is released or removed." "I release it." "No, you do not." His eyebrows lifted. She should have been more careful. Exhaustion made her honest in ways rent did not permit. "You own it," she said. "I release it from my lane when it is safe to move." "And is it?" "Mechanically? Maybe. Strategically? No. Strategically. You are angry. Your men are angry. Everyone wants motion because motion feels like control. That is when people make stupid turns. Do you call everyone stupid before sunrise? Only when they are circling it." He looked at the road beyond the awning. For a while he said nothing. Then he crouched. Not to inspect the tire. To be closer to where she was pointing at the lower panel and the wheel well. Teach me, he said. Lena almost laughed. Then she saw his face. He was serious. More than serious. There was something raw beneath the control, not exposed enough to be weakness, but close enough to cost him. Teach you what? What I stopped seeing. The answer should have been simple. Powder line. Key burrs. Camera angles. The difference between a copied key and an old one. But Mateo was not asking only about cars. Lena crouched beside him, leaving enough space that his guards could not mistake closeness for invitation. You looked at people, she said. Not objects. People commit betrayal. Objects remember it. He absorbed that. Rain ticked against the awning edge. My father died in a car that passed 3 inspections, he said. Lena did not offer sympathy immediately. Automatic comfort was often just noise wearing perfume. Who checked the small things? Everyone said they did. That is not what I asked. His jaw tightened. No one. She nodded once. Then you did what people do after a loss. You built a wall around the wrong lesson. His eyes cut to hers. Careful. I am. That did not sound careful. Careful is not the same as obedient. The words hung between them, clean as the click of a key in a lock. He looked at her for a long time. Most men stared at Lena when they wanted her to shrink or soften or apologize for the space she occupied. Mateo looked as if he was learning the shape of a country he might not be allowed to enter. What was the wrong lesson? He asked. She touched the red tag with her thumb. You decided no one should touch your keys. But that made the key symbolic, not safe. Your people treated them like sacred objects. That meant nobody questioned the extra one. He glanced toward the hotel. And the right lesson? Small things need ordinary witnesses. Ordinary. Do not start. I was going to ask if you consider yourself ordinary. I consider myself paid hourly. That is not what I asked. It is the answer you get at 2 in the morning. Another almost smile touched him. Then it faded. I nearly sent you away. Yes. I nearly missed it. Yes. You are not going to soften that. No. Why? Because if I soften it, you will forgive yourself too fast and call it growth. Mateo went still. That landed. She saw it. She also saw that it did not humiliate him. It held him. There was a difference. What should I do first? He asked. Before revenge? Yes. Pay Ravi exactly what he billed. After that. Protect Paige's job. Done. Protect my valet crew from your family deciding we are loose ends. Done. Do not punish every driver because one betrayed you. That teaches the honest ones to hide mistakes. He looked at her differently then. You are very specific. Specific keeps people alive. And you? What about me? Who keeps you alive? She stood before the question could settle too near. Usually me. Mateo rose after her. That sounds lonely. It sounds efficient. Those are not opposites. They are in my tax bracket. He stepped closer, stopping before he crowded her. That mattered more than it should. Lena. Her name in his voice was not a command. That mattered too. What? When this is finished, I would like to see you somewhere that is not my crime scene. This is my valet lane. Our crime scene, then. That is not better. No. Are you asking for a date while your fiancé is being questioned upstairs? I am asking too early because I do not know how to do it casually, and because tonight has made several facts clear. One of those facts better be that you are no longer engaged. That was clear before the second key hit the pavement. Lena looked at him, searching for arrogance, entitlement, a man trying to convert gratitude into possession. She found control, damage, interest, and something more careful than desire. Not safe, but careful. Ask me after you clean your house, she said. My house is never clean. Then start with the rooms you know are dirty. He nodded. And if I ask later? I might say no. You might. That does not bother you? It bothers me. Good. But I would rather be bothered by your answer than comforted by a lie. Lena did not know what to do with that. So she handed him nothing. She kept the keys. Chapter 7. By dawn, the engagement was over. No announcement went out. Men like Mateo did not need announcements when silence could do cleaner work. Bianca's family received calls. A jeweler received a return request without explanation. 3 accounts were frozen. 2 drivers were removed from the schedule pending review. Harold Pym discovered that resignation was not a shield if the person receiving it had already called the hotel ownership board. Lena discovered that Matteo Vescari could dismantle a public future without raising his voice once. It should have impressed her. It did, which annoyed her. At 5:40 a.m., she finally released the SUV. Not to Matteo. To a flatbed truck Ravi trusted. It goes to the shop, she said. Full check. No exceptions. Matteo stood beside her with a paper coffee cup in one hand. He had brought one for her too. He had not handed it over until she finished with the tow paperwork. Another point in his favor. She took the cup. You did not put anything weird in this, did you? Cream. Sugar. I meant money. No. A check? No. A car? No. A tiny deed to a garage? He paused. Lena stared at him. Matteo. Not tiny. Absolutely not. I have not offered. You thought it. Many things are not crimes until acted upon. In your world, maybe. His eyes warmed with the beginning of amusement. The tow truck pulled away with the SUV, its tires leaving wet arcs in the street. Lena watched until it turned the corner. Only then did her body admit how tired it was. Matteo noticed. Sit. She gave him a look. Please, he added. That sounded painful. It was. Good. He led her not into the hotel but to the stone bench near the closed flower stand, still under the awning but away from the revolving doors. He did not sit too close. The city before breakfast belonged to cleaners, delivery drivers, nurses coming off shift, bakers, and people rich enough to pretend they had not been awake all night. For once Matteo looked like he belonged to none of them. What happens to Bianca? Lena asked. She answers questions. That is vague. It is the honest version I can give you without making you part of it. I am part of it. No. You stopped it. That does not mean I get to drag you through the rest. She looked at him over the coffee. That is almost ethical. Do not spread it around. She smiled before she could stop herself. His gaze caught on it. Not greedily. Quietly. As if her smile were one more small thing he had almost missed and now did not intend to overlook. Why valet? He asked. Because cars still make sense after people ruin your day. That is the public answer. It is the answer I give men on benches before 6. And the private one? Lena took a sip of coffee. It was too sweet. Somehow that made it better. My father lost the garage when he got sick. Medical bills first. Then rent. Then tools. By the end he was pretending the place was a choice he had made instead of something being taken piece by piece. Matteo listened. No interruption. No fix. No immediate offer. She kept going because the lack of rescue made speech possible. After he died, I could not afford to buy anything back. I could not even afford the storage unit for his manuals. Bellerio needed valets. Cars came in. Keys came in. I was good at it. Being good at something makes grief less loud. Does it? Sometimes. What makes it loud again? Men who think money is a universal solvent. He looked down at his coffee. I would have offered the garage. I know. Would you have hated me for it? A little. Only a little? Depends how dramatic the offer was. Very. Then more than a little. He nodded, accepting the correction like a man placing a weapon on a table and stepping away from it. What would not insult you? He asked. That is a dangerous question. You prefer dangerous questions. I prefer honest ones. People confuse them because honesty makes cowards sweat. What would not insult you, Lena? She looked at the red Valet tag lying on her palm. It was nearly ruined now. Vein bent. Finger marked. Number 41 blurred at the edge. Protect my staff without making them yours, she said. Make the hotel put the code red procedure into policy. Make them pay Paige for the full week if they suspend her during review. Make sure Harold cannot blame the night crew for his notes. And if you want to donate to the trade school, do it anonymously. Nothing for you? I got coffee. Lena. Fine. If your people find my father's old socket chest, the red one from Hard Auto, I want it back. Who has it? A storage auction buyer. I lost track after the second resale. That is all? That is not small. No, he said. It is not. He looked toward the street. Morning had begun paling the buildings, turning the wet pavement from black to gray. My father taught me routes, Matteo said. Lena stayed quiet. He seemed to need that. Never take the same street twice. Never trust a green light at an empty intersection. Never sit with your back to a door. Never let anyone else hold the keys. Useful rules. Yes. Incomplete ones. He looked at her. Yes. Something shifted then, small but not fragile. The kind of shift that would not look like much to anyone passing by. A man with power admitted a rule had failed him. A woman with wet socks did not soften the truth to make him feel less foolish. Both stayed. The red tag rested between them. Chapter 8. Matteo did not ask Lena out that morning. That was the first reason she believed he might someday deserve a yes. He had her number because she gave it to him for evidence chain questions, then added, if you use this to send flowers, I will block you. What about reports? He asked. Reports are fine. Updates? Specific updates. Dinner invitations? Absolutely not. Breakfast? You are learning nothing. He sent no flowers. At 9:18 a.m., he sent a photo of a signed memo from Bellario ownership formalizing Valet Code Red procedure across all hotel properties. At 9:23 a.m., he sent a payroll confirmation showing Paige on paid administrative leave, not suspension. At 9:40 a.m., he sent a receipt for a donation to Kedzie Trade School with the donor field blacked out. At 10:02 a.m., he sent one line. Still looking for the red socket chest. Lena stared at the message longer than necessary. Then she wrote. Good. She deleted. Thank you. She deleted. Be careful. She deleted. You looked tired when you left. She put the phone face down and slept for 6 hours in her work shirt. When she woke, the world had not become simple. Bianca's family denied everything. Marco vanished from the version of events given to certain newspapers, which meant Matteo had removed him from public narrative before private consequences arrived. The Bellario praised swift internal coordination and did not mention Lena's name until Ravi threatened to park 3 tow trucks across the hotel's front lane during lunch service. Then they mentioned her name. They spelled it wrong. Lena was eating cereal from a mug when Matteo called. Do you want me to correct the hotel statement? Hello to you too. There was a pause. Hello, Lena. That should not have sounded intimate. It did. No, she said. Do not correct it. They wrote Lena. I saw. That does not bother you? It bothers me less than you making them fix it because you told them to. I can ask. Can you? I can attempt to ask. You can leave it. Why? Because if they spell my name right only after the Mafia boss calls, it is still not respect. It is weather. Weather. People adjust to it. They do not learn from it. He was quiet long enough that she wondered if she had offended him. Then he said, I found the socket chest. Her hand tightened around the phone. Where? A private collector bought it with other shop items. Private collector of used socket chests? Private collector of things that belonged to men he outlived. Something in his voice told her there was a story there, and not a pleasant one. Can you get it back? Yes. Legally? You keep making these conversations narrow. Matteo. Yes. Legally. She exhaled. What will it cost? A conversation. With who? Me. There it was. Not quite a trap. Not quite a gift. About what? About whether I may bring it to you myself when I have it. Lena closed her eyes. She could picture him too clearly. Black coat. Signet ring. That almost smile he probably did not know he had used twice. The way he crouched on wet pavement because she told him he was missing evidence. The way he did not wake fear in Paige when warned. The way danger sat on him like tailored cloth, not costume. You may bring it to the valet station, she said. Not dinner. No. Not breakfast. No. Coffee? At the valet station. That is a very public place. Exactly. You do not trust me. I trust what you did yesterday. That is not the same as trusting you. Fair. You say that a lot for a man people fear. People rarely are. Fair? Worth listening to. Lena did not answer. The line held. Then he said, I am trying not to move too fast. The honesty caught her unprepared. Why? Because I know how to take ground. I am less practiced at being invited. She sat very still. Outside her small apartment window, an elevated train passed with a sound like loose thunder. Then practice, she said. Is that permission? That is instruction. I can follow instruction. Since when? Since a valet girl refused to start my car. She should have corrected him. Valet supervisor. Instead she smiled into the quiet where he could not see it. Chapter 9. The red socket chest came back on a Thursday. Matteo arrived at the Bellario at 4:10 p.m., not in the black SUV but in a different car that Ravi had already cleared twice because Matteo had learned enough to become difficult in new ways. He stepped out wearing a black suit and no overcoat because the afternoon was warm. 2 guards stayed near the curb. He carried the red chest himself. Lena saw it from the podium and forgot the sentence she was writing. The chest was dented near the lower left corner. A strip of old tape crossed the handle. Hard Auto was still written on the side in white paint, her father's block letters uneven because he had painted it during a baseball game and kept looking up at the radio as if scores could be seen through sound. For 1 second she was 14 again, sitting on an overturned bucket, sorting sockets by size while her father said, Small ones disappear first, Len. Watch the small ones. Matteo set the chest on the valet podium. Not at her feet. Not into her hands. On the work surface between them, where she could choose whether to touch it. That nearly undid her. How? She asked. Legally. That is not an answer. It is the one you asked for. Matteo. I bought a debt from a man who should not have owned the chest in the first place. Then I traded the debt back for this and 3 boxes of shop records. That sounds almost legal. It was reviewed by an attorney who dislikes me. That helps. I thought so. Lena opened the top drawer. The smell hit first. Metal. Oil. Dust. Home. Her fingers touched the missing 10mm socket and found it exactly where her father never put it, because he had liked pretending chaos kept thieves humble. She laughed. Then she cried. Not dramatically. Not prettily. One hand over her mouth, shoulders tight, the kind of tears that escaped because the room in her chest had been locked too long and somebody had returned the key. Mateo did not touch her. He stepped slightly to the side, blocking the view from the hotel doors with his body. Lena noticed through the blur. Of course she noticed. Thank you, she said. You are welcome. Do not ruin it. How would I ruin it? By saying something like you owe me dinner now. You do not owe me dinner. Good. I would still like dinner. She wiped her face with the heel of her hand and gave him a look. You waited 12 seconds. I counted 18. Worse. Yes. She laughed again, broken but real. He watched her as if he had been given something far more dangerous than gratitude. Ask properly, she said. His expression changed. Subtle. Serious. Lena Hart, when you are off shift, when you have slept, and when you can say no without wondering what it will cost you, will you have dinner with me? She looked at the red socket chest. Then at the red Valet tag taped now to the inside of the podium glass, dry and wrinkled, number 41 still barely visible. Then at Mateo. Yes. He did not smile immediately. He absorbed it first, as if accepting too quickly would disrespect the distance she had made him cross. When? Sunday. Where? Somewhere that does not have valet parking. That limits my usual options. Good. I will adapt. Wear something that does not look like you are attending a sentencing. He looked down at his suit. This is blue. That is black with ambition. Sunday, he said. Sunday. The first date was at a family-owned Mexican restaurant where nobody cared who Mateo was because the owner's grandmother cared only whether people finished their plates. He arrived in dark gray. Lena gave him credit. He did not bring guards inside. They remained across the street, which she noticed and did not praise because he was not a dog learning to sit. They talked about cars first. Then fathers. Then the strange loneliness of being known for competence before being known for tenderness. Mateo listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, he chose words as if they had consequences because in his life they usually did. Lena liked that. She also feared liking it. You are thinking about the exit, he said near dessert. Habit. Mine too. That is not romantic. No. Are you trying to be? Carefully. She smiled. That was better. I am practicing. He did not kiss her that night. He walked her to her car, stopped 2 steps away, and said, May I call you tomorrow? She said yes. He called. Not too early. Not too late. Not with demands. With a question about whether valve noise in cold weather meant something different in older engines. It did, and she spent 20 minutes explaining it before realizing he probably had 3 mechanics who could have answered. You asked me on purpose, she said. Yes. Why? I like listening to you talk about things you respect. That was the first time she had to sit down during one of his calls. Chapter 10. 3 weeks after the red tag night, the remaining pieces of Bianca's plan surfaced. They did not surface gently. A man from River Road tried to sell a story to a reporter. A driver connected to Bianca's uncle disappeared from a flight list. Harold Pym, desperate to become useful, admitted the Bellario had hosted 2 meetings under false names in the month before the engagement dinner. One meeting had included a retired investigator who had worked Mateo's father's crash. Mateo called Lena at 8:03 p.m. I found the man who signed the old inspection. She was in the laundry room of her building, folding towels on top of a dryer that shook like an old truck. From your father's car? Yes. Are you all right? He did not answer. That was an answer. Where are you? She asked. Warehouse office. Alone? No. With people who want you calm or people who want you useful? Silence. Then, useful. She closed her eyes. Do not make a decision tonight. He confessed. That is not what I said. Lena. You are angry. Angry men like roads. They think going somewhere means doing something. Stay where you are. He breathed once, hard. I do not know if I can. That admission cost him more than any apology would have. Lena looked at her towels, then at the rain beginning on the laundry room window. Put someone on the phone who can drive. Why? Because I am coming there, and if you leave before I arrive, I will be extremely inconvenient. He let out a sound that was not quite a laugh. Threat noted. Good. Ravi drove her because her own car had a brake issue she had been ignoring for 2 days, and Ravi had opinions about hypocrisy. You are going to a Mafia warehouse because a man is sad, he asked. Angry. Worse. I know. You like him. Drive. That is not a denial. It is an instruction. You two deserve each other. The warehouse office smelled of coffee, dust, and men trying not to look curious. Mateo stood by the window, black shirt sleeves rolled to his forearms, no jacket, no tie. He looked less like a ruler there and more like a man holding a storm inside his ribs by force. On the desk lay a folder, an old inspection report, and a photograph of a wrecked car. Lena did not look at for long. Everyone out, Mateo said. Lena said, no. The men paused. Mateo turned. She walked to the desk and set the red Valet tag beside the folder. She had brought it without knowing why. Now she knew. To stay outside the door, she said. Not inside, not gone. You are not making grief private enough to become stupid. One of Mateo's men looked at him. Mateo nodded. The room emptied to the right distance. Lena looked at the inspection report. Tell me. He did. Not all of it. Enough. The old inspection had been falsified. A small steering fault noted by one junior mechanic had been removed from the final file. The mechanic had died years later, but the man who signed the report had confessed after Mateo's people found payments routed through Bianca's uncle. Mateo's father had not died only because of enemies. He had died because a small thing was seen, dismissed, and buried. Lena sat in the chair across from him. What do you want to do? Everything. That is not an action. It feels like one. Most bad decisions do. His hands curled at his sides. Do not make me gentle tonight. I am not making you gentle. Then what are you doing? Making you precise. The word struck him. She saw it enter the same place where her red tag had entered weeks before. Small things. Ordinary witnesses. Precision instead of rage. Sit down, she said. He stared at her. Mateo, sit down. He sat. Not because she dominated him. Because he trusted her with the part of him that might otherwise become destruction and call itself justice. Lena turned the inspection report toward him. Read the original note aloud. Why? Because buried truth should hear a voice. His eyes closed briefly. Then he read. The first line cracked. The second steadied. By the third, he was not calmer, but he was present. That mattered more. When he finished, Lena put the red Valet tag on top of the report. Your father was not killed by a steering fault, she said. He was killed by everyone who decided a small thing could wait. Mateo looked at the tag. And tonight? Tonight you do not let it wait. You do it clean. Documents. Names. Dates. No theater. You think I am capable of theater? You are a mafia boss in a warehouse at midnight. He almost smiled, then did not. Stay, he said. It was not an order. Still, she answered carefully. For what? Until I choose the first clean step. She stayed. Not all night. Long enough. When she stood to leave, he rose too. Lena. Yes? I love you. The words landed without decoration. No music. No rain against marble. No dramatic threat outside the door. Just a man in a warehouse office, stripped of every easy performance, telling the truth as if he had finally found the smallest thing he could not afford to bury. Lena's throat tightened. That is inconvenient. Yes. You understand I am not saying it back because you had a hard night. I would not want that. Good. But you heard me. Yes. That is enough tonight. She wanted to touch him. She did not. Instead she picked up the red Valet tag and put it in his hand. Then hold this until you choose clean. His fingers closed around it. I will. Chapter 11. Mateo chose clean. It was not gentle. Clean rarely was. He gave the old inspection records to an attorney outside his family's usual circle. He handed the financial trail to a judge who owed him nothing and feared his enemies more than him. He removed Bianca's uncle through contracts, not spectacle. He made River Road a public file instead of a private revenge. The newspapers called it an anti-corruption cooperation. Lena called it a miracle with paperwork. You sound surprised, Mateo said over the phone. I am. I told you I would choose clean. Men say many things when holding emotionally significant cardboard. The red tag is in my desk. It better not be framed. Not framed. Mateo. Under glass. That is framing with money. Protective preservation. You are impossible. Have dinner with me. That was a terrible transition. I want to see you. Simple. There it was again, the thing he did that unsettled her most. He could be terrifyingly direct when he stopped trying to control the effect of his words. Tomorrow, she said. Where? My apartment. Silence. Then, carefully, are you sure? I am cooking. Then I am very sure. You have not tasted my cooking. I survived an attempted car sabotage. I am willing to risk pasta. Brave. Reckless. Do not flirt with death through my sauce. I will be respectful. He arrived with bread, not flowers. Ravi had clearly advised him, because the bread came from the bakery near Lena's building and not from some ridiculous place that wrapped carbohydrates in gold paper. Matteo stood in her doorway looking too large for the hallway and almost uncertain for the first time. "You can come in," she said. "I know. Do you?" "No." She smiled and stepped aside. Her apartment was small, warm, and not arranged for judgment. Books leaned sideways. A plant on the windowsill was making a brave attempt at survival. The red socket chest sat under the kitchen table because there was nowhere else for it. Matteo saw it. Then he looked at her. "It belongs there? For now." He nodded, as if the chest had rights he intended to respect. Dinner was not cinematic. The sauce was decent. The bread was excellent. Matteo handled the kitchen utensil so badly that Lena took it away from him. "You control half the city and cannot dice an onion." "I have people." "You had people. Now you have supervision." "Yes, ma'am." The words should have sounded mocking. They did not. After dinner, they washed dishes together. Matteo dried because Lena did not trust him to stack plates in a cabinet built before either of them was born. His shoulder brushed hers once. Neither moved away quickly. "I meant what I said," he told her. She set a mug upside down on the rack. "I know. You do not have to answer." "I know that too. But you are thinking. Always. About exit routes?" "Less than before." He absorbed that like a gift. She turned to face him. "I love you," she said, before courage could become performance. He went completely still. For a man whose world ran on reaction, he had none. Then he set the towel down with great care. "Say it again when I am not holding glass." She laughed. "I love you, Matteo Vescari." He crossed no distance until she lifted her hand. That was the moment she knew. Not because he loved her. Powerful men loved women badly every day and called the wreckage passion. Because he waited to be invited when every instinct in him was built to take ground. She touched his face. He bent his head. Their first kiss was not soft at the edges, but it was careful at the center. He kissed like a man learning that restraint could be devotion. She kissed like a woman who had spent years being efficient because wanting had felt too expensive, and now found wanting did not have to bankrupt her. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "I am still dangerous," he said. "I know. My life will not become simple. Neither will mine. I will make mistakes. I will correct you." He breathed something like a laugh. "I know. Good." Outside, a car alarm chirped once and stopped. Lena smiled. "Do not check it." "I was not going to." "Liar." "Learning." She kissed him again. Chapter 12. 1 year later, the red Valet tag sat under glass on Matteo Vescari's desk. Not in the center. Lena had forbidden that. "If you put it in the center," she said, "it becomes a shrine. Shrines are where common sense goes to die." So it sat on the left side, near the phone, where he could see it before making calls that might affect people who would never enter his office. The tag was still bent from rain. Number 41 was nearly unreadable. Under it was a small brass plate Matteo had commissioned without asking, which had almost caused a fight until Lena saw what it said. "Small things need ordinary witnesses." She allowed it. Barely. On the first anniversary of the Bellario night, Matteo did not rent a ballroom. He did not send diamonds. He did not buy a car because he had finally accepted that automotive gifts were not romantic when given to a woman who could hear every maintenance problem in the engine. He took Lena to the trade school on Kedzie. The new automotive lab smelled like rubber mats, fresh paint, and teenage impatience. Ravi stood near a lift, pretending not to be proud of the equipment bought with anonymous money that everyone knew was not anonymous. Lena walked through the space slowly. Students worked in pairs at the benches. A young woman with purple braids showed a boy twice her size how to reset a torque wrench. A wall display held old tools from local garages, including one dented red socket drawer from Hard Auto. Lena stopped in front of it. Matteo stopped behind her, not too close. "You did this?" "Ravi did most of it." "Matteo. I helped." "Anonymously?" "Mostly." She turned. "Mostly?" The building needed permits. And? A councilman needed encouragement. "Legal encouragement?" "Adjacent." She narrowed her eyes. He said, "Clean enough for Ravi." "That is a higher standard than legal." "I am aware." She looked back at the tools. Her father's name was written on a small card. Not as charity. As lineage. Lena pressed her fingers to her mouth. Matteo waited. He had become very good at waiting where it mattered. Finally she said, "He would have liked this." "Yes. You did not know him." "I know what he taught you." She turned toward him then, and the noise of the lab moved around them like weather around glass. "That was good. I have been practicing." "It shows." Ravi shouted from across the lab, if you two are done making eyes near the memorial wall, somebody expensive needs to learn what a socket actually is. Lena laughed. Matteo removed his suit jacket. The students stared. Ravi tossed him a pair of work gloves. Not those fancy leather things. Real gloves. Matteo looked at Lena. She smiled sweetly. Go on, boss. You enjoy this. Deeply. He put on the gloves. For the next hour, the most feared man in 3 neighborhoods learned to remove a tire under the supervision of a 19-year-old girl who told him twice that his hand placement was dramatic and wrong. Lena watched from a workbench, laughing into her coffee. At the end, Matteo's shirt was marked with dust, his sleeves were rolled, and his dignity had survived with only moderate dents. He came to stand beside her. You are happy, he said. Yes. Good. You are dirty. Apparently that is what work does. Revolutionary. He held out something small. Not a ring. Not a key to a car. A new red Valet tag. Blank. Unnumbered. What is this? A question. She took it carefully. I am listening. Not marriage. That was wise to clarify. Not yet. Her heart tripped. He saw it and did not exploit it. A garage, he said. She began to shake her head. Not a gift. A partnership offer. The trade school needs a public service garage for student hours. Ravi wants to run it 2 days a week. You would design the training program if you want. Paid. Contracted. Fully yours to refuse. No Vescary name on the sign. Lena looked at the blank red tag. You planned this with Ravi? Yes. He kept it secret. He enjoyed that too much. You are not buying me a garage. No. You are funding a school program. Yes. That I can run or not run. Yes. With legal paperwork I can take to an attorney who dislikes you. Already prepared. She looked at him for a long time. This was what love had become between them. Not rescue. Not ownership. Not a man throwing money at a wound and calling the echo gratitude. A door opened with her hand still on the handle. I want to read everything, she said. I expected nothing less. And if I say no? Then we have dinner. And if I say yes? Then we have dinner. She smiled. You are learning. Slowly. Not that slowly. He touched the edge of the blank tag, not her hand. Lena Hart, will you consider building something that teaches people to watch the small things? She looked at the students, the lifts, Ravi arguing with a torque wrench, her father's dented drawer on the wall, and Matteo waiting beside her with all his dangerous patience. Yes, she said. I will consider it. His smile came this time, real and unguarded. It still had shadows. So did hers. That was all right. Some love stories did not begin with a rescue. Some began with a woman in a wet valet jacket refusing to hand over the keys. Some began with a powerful man crouching in the rain because she told him he had missed the small thing that mattered. Some began with a red tag, bent at the corner, cheap enough for anyone to ignore and important enough to save a life. Later that night, when they returned to Matteo's office, Lena found the original red Valet tag under glass where it belonged, not in the center, not hidden, just visible enough. Beside it sat the blank one. Do not frame that yet, she warned. I would not dare. You absolutely would. I am trying to become less predictable. Start by taking me to dinner somewhere with terrible parking. That is cruel. That is romance. He laughed then. Not the almost smile. Not the controlled breath. A real laugh, low and surprised, as if joy had entered without clearance and he had decided not to have it removed. Lena took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and careful. I love you, he said. I know. That was not the expected answer. I am trying to become less predictable too. He brought her hand to his mouth and kissed her knuckles, not like a vow performed for witnesses, but like a fact he intended to keep learning. Outside the office window, black cars waited at the curb. Men with earpieces watched the street. The city moved through its dangerous little habits, all lights and wet pavement and people believing large things mattered most. On Matteo's desk, the red Valet tag held its place. Small. Ordinary. Impossible to ignore. And this time, before anyone touched the keys, the Mafia boss looked at it first.